Hello, I'm Marilyn and I'm with the Wichita County Master Gardeners, and we're here today to show you how to plant your seeds.
Welcome to week 2 of Gardening for Food, our fall gardening series brought to you by the Better Living for Texans Extension Office here in Wichita County. This episode, we talk with Wichita County's Master Gardener, Marilyn, on how to plant your seeds, plants, and bulbs. We hope you enjoy.
All right, the first thing we want to do when we're getting ready to plant is to prepare your soil. And if you look at this soil, there's a lot of big clots. Those clots will not help your seeds germinate. So you're going to want to take a rake and go through your garden and pull out and get out all of those big clumps that will prevent your seeds from growing. So once you've raked your garden and got it all nice and smooth and fine, you're going to want to check your garden and make sure that your soil is good for planting, and you're going to want to pick it up and kind of crunch it up in your hand, and as long as it falls apart like this, you'll know that it's good for planting and it's not too wet. If your soil is too wet, sometimes your seeds will not germinate. Now that we have our soil ready, we're ready to choose our seeds that we're wanting to plant. Now, in the fall, you're going to notice that a lot of the seeds are smaller than the seeds that maybe you would plant in the springtime, where you have corn and some of those other beans and some of those other seeds. Now, notice how small some of these seeds are, and we want to know exactly how deep and how to plant these. And this is where your seed packet comes in handy. On the back of your seed packet, you're going to notice that it will give you all kinds of instructions: how to plant them, how deep to plant them, all kinds of suggestions about what to do, and moisture on your plants. There's a nice little chart, and this chart can be anywhere down the side, across the bottom, and it will tell you how many days before it germinates, how many, the planting, how deep you want to plant it, and how many days until it comes up, and days until you can harvest this. Now, this is all important information, and before you plant, you might want to look at the back of your seed packet, or if you're going to go buy seeds, you might want to take a look at some of these and say, oh my goodness, this is going to take 80 days before it will be able to harvest, and I don't have enough time to do that in the fall, so I'm not going to plant that this fall. So those are important things to look at on the back of your seed packet. All right, we're ready to plant our seeds now. And how, after we've looked at our package, we know how deep we have to plant these. We're going to make a little row or a little trench to plant our seeds in. Now, if you have a really big seed that you would probably be planting in the spring, you can make your trench a lot deeper. Since our seeds are going to be very small, we're making just a small trench. And be sure and leave space between your trenches. Remember, the seeds are little, but these plants can get this big. So again, look at the back of your seed packets and see how big they're going to be when they grow, and make your next row far enough away to allow those seeds to grow and get to their correct size. One of the things you may want to be planting for your fall garden is lettuce and spinach. And again, look at the size of these little seeds. They are teeny tiny. And to try and plant those one at a time is almost an impossibility. So an easy way to plant very, very tiny seeds like these, or radishes or other little bitty seeds, is to mix them with a small amount of dirt. Just put your seeds in, mix it around a little bit, and you can plant them much easier. And then you can just kind of cover them slightly. And that's a good way to plant smaller seeds. Sometimes seeds are a little bit larger. Now, in the winter and for fall gardens, you're going to notice that most of the seeds are going to be small, and you're going to have to plant them the way we just showed you, or, take them one at a time and put them in there. But when you have seeds that are a little bit larger, you can actually put those into the ground at the distance that your package directions will tell you, and then you can cover those individually. Water is very important once you put your seeds in the ground. We need to keep it moist, not muddy, but moist. So after you plant your seeds, you're going to want to water them in. You can use a sprinkling can, you can use a bottle of water, you can use a hose. If you need to, use a milk jug to carry your water in. That's not important, but you do need to keep your seeds moist until they come up. Now, once they come up and you see a few little leaves, you're going to want to check periodically, like every other day or so, to make sure that your soil is damp. And the best way to do that is just take your finger, put it in about a finger deep, and if it's moist, if you can feel it moist on your finger, then your soil is moist and your plants have enough moisture. If it's not, if it's dry, then you're going to get out your watering can or your hose or whatever you're going to water with, and make sure that you keep those plants moist until at least they're up several inches, and then you might not have to water them every day or so. Another important area to discuss when you are starting your garden and getting your plants and your seeds ready is the cost. Seeds are going to be much cheaper than buying already potted plants or bulbs. It will take seeds longer to grow and to germinate, that is true. But the cost can be considerably less if you buy the seeds. And depending on the size of your garden, you may not need to use a whole package of seed for one season. You might plant half a package of spinach in the fall and save the rest to plant in the spring, which considerably cuts down the cost of your gardening, and you'll certainly get a nice crop from just half a package of spinach, depending on the size of your garden. But you've started planting your garden, you're putting in your seeds, and you've decided to buy a few plants to put in there. One of the things when you go to buy your plants, you're going to notice that there's a little tag in the containers, and that will tell you what those plants are, and it will also be like your seed packet. It will have information on the back to help you plant those plants. Now, one of the things that you're going to be careful about when you go to get your plants out of these containers, if you try and pull this plant up, you're liable just to break off that plant. So the best thing to do is let your fingers help you. Take two of your fingers, put them around that plant, squeeze the bottom of the plant, and voila, that plant will come right out, soil and all, and you will not have a broken plant. And you can dig your hole and put your plant in, cover it with soil, and you can water that in. One of the things to remember if you are planting from plants that you're getting from your containers is to watch your spacing. These are cabbage plants. A cabbage plant can get at least a foot or larger in diameter when it is growing, when it is mature. So you're going to want to allow for that when you're planting. So you're going to want to plant your plants at least a foot to 18 inches apart. So if you're going to plant these, be sure and check how big of an area you have to plant these in before you get started. So always look at your tab and see how big these are when they're fully mature, so you can allow enough space when you're planting. Another plant for fall gardens or even for your spring garden are onions, and several other varieties of vegetables come in bulbs, and they're interesting things to plant. And to plant a bulb, you're going to want to put your finger in the ground, stick your bulb in, and cover it up. Now look at your bulb carefully when you're planting it. Part of it will have looks like little roots on it, and the other will be the top part of the plant. Make sure when you're planting these that the side that looks like it has the little roots on it is down, and the top part of the plant is facing up. So just stick your finger in, put your bulb in, and cover it up. And you'll have onions later on this fall.